All right, so today we're going to take a look at dangling gerunds, which sounds really exciting, and we're going to take a look at it in 3 short little video segments. So we're looking at our worksheet. Let's take a look at the notes on what we mean by a dangling gerund. So we take a look at this sentence, which is an error to say, upon seeing the stop sign, the car screeched to a halt. Well, this is a problem. Same thing as like saying, by proofreading my papers, my grades improved greatly. Sounds great, except it's grammatically incorrect. And if I said, the ingredients should be assembled before starting to bake a cake, also grammatically incorrect. Let's talk about why. So when you have a gerund is once again part noun, part verb. And because it's part verb, any of our verbals that we're going to learn, remember our verbals will be part verb, part something else. The verbal has to agree with the original subject of the sentence. Otherwise, we have a problem. And oftentimes, we would call it dangling. And so the term comes from Reed and Kellogg, who taught us how to diagram. So if I look at this first error sentence, which says, upon seeing the stop sign, well, my gerund is seeing the stop sign. See if I can get my little laser pointer show up here. Seeing the stop sign. But my subject is the word car. Well, the subject of the sentence car has to do all the actions in the sentence. So the car moving forward is screeching to a halt. That's great. Going backward, can the car see the stop sign? It can't. And therefore, that's a problem. And the reason we call it a dangling gerund is because this gerund, the subject of the gerund, like who's seeing the stop sign, it's not in the sentence. So therefore, it seems to what we say dangle, because the word, it's actually the person who's actually doing the action of the verbal, in this case seeing, is not in the sentence. And therefore, it's sort of kind of hanging out, but it has nowhere really to connect to. And therefore, it dangles. Look at this next one. By proofreading my papers, my grades improved greatly. Well, once again, the subject is grades, and grades can improve greatly. Great. But your grades, going backwards, can't proofread your papers for you. And therefore, who's proofreading your papers? It never says. And therefore, we would say, therefore, that this gerund dangles. Now, what I like to do, and what the SAT likes to do, is we like to give the gerund later in the sentence. Typically, when they start the sentence with like upon seeing or by proofreading, when I start the sentence that way, you can usually hear your grammar gut kicks in and says, something's weird about saying that, like upon seeing the stop sign, the car, like that's weird. So what I like to do, what the SAT will do, is I like putting the gerund later in the sentence, like this third example, because oftentimes you forget what the original subject was. The ingredients should be assembled before starting to bake a cake. Well, the ingredients should be assembled, that makes sense. But the ingredients aren't starting to bake a cake. Why would ingredients bake themselves into a cake? It's called culinary suicide. Why would flour and sugar do that to itself? So therefore, that's the problem. So who's starting to bake a cake? The sentence never says. So all these are what we call dangling gerunds. So there's a couple different ways of fixing it. So one way of fixing it is simply to leave the gerund and then to add a new subject. Upon seeing the stop sign, I brought the car to a screeching halt. Now, I'm the one who's bringing the car to a screeching halt, and I'm the one who's seeing the stop sign. By proofreading my papers, I improved my grades greatly. I'm the one who's improving my grades, and I'm the one who proofread my paper. But you can also do it another way. If you don't feel like changing the subject, which I did in the first 2 examples, the other solution is to get rid of the gerund and simply change the gerund if you can. So I might say something like, ingredients should be assembled before you start to bake a cake. So you'll notice there that I got rid of the gerund, the ing, and simply made it into, as we're going to find in our next unit, we're going to call this an adverb clause. But right now, your grammar gut might be just good enough to say, you know what, I think I know how to fix this. I may not know what it's called, but I think I can come up with a solution for this. So what I want to do is I want to take a look at the bottom 1, 2, 3, and 4 and see if you can find a way to actually improve the sentence by doing one or two things. Could you either add a new subject to the sentence and rewrite it, or could you get rid of the gerund and kind of rewrite that? I'm going to pause my video just briefly, and then I'm going to go through the answers. So you can pause my video, do your answers, and then come back and follow along with me. Here we go. After finishing the decorations, the synagogue basement looked spectacular for Luke's graduation party. This is my first period sentences, and it looks like I forgot my period here. Great grammar teacher. Anyway, a couple solutions you may have come up with. I noticed that finishing the decorations is my gerund, but my subject is basement. Well, your basement can't finish its own decorations. So a couple things you could have done. You could have said, after we finish the decorations, the synagogue basement looks spectacular. I just used the word we. You could have said after Rabbi Steve finished the decorations, after Luke's parents finished the decorations, whatever you want to say is fine. But in this case, I changed the gerund. Another solution I could say is after finishing the decorations, We made the synagogue basement look spectacular for Luke's graduation party. And once again, I just simply made the subject we, but you could have done a different subject. So those are both possible solutions. Number two, in making a college selection, your guidance counselor can be a big help. Look at me putting the period there like a big boy. All right. Once again, here's your gerund making a college selection, but your subject is counselor. Well, your counselor can be a big help, but hopefully your guidance counselor isn't making a college selection for you. So, a couple solutions. You could say, when you make a college selection, your guidance counselor can be a big help, getting rid of the gerund completely. Or if you want to leave the gerund, you could say something like, in making a college selection, you may find your guidance counselor to be a big help. Once again, that's my choices. You certainly could have written yours in a different way. Number three, by signing this waiver, no claims against the owner of the hot wing restaurant can be made. Well, here's your gerund, signing this waiver, but the subject is claims. And the claims can be made, but the claims can't sign the waiver. So I could get rid of the gerund and say, after you sign this waiver, no claims against the owner can be made. Or if I wanted to leave the gerund, I could have said, by signing this waiver, you can make no claims against the owner of the hot wing restaurant. Lastly, number four, our backpacks got really heavy after walking from the chorus room up here to the second floor. Once again, that's that tricky one where the gerund is a little later in the sentence. And sometimes when it's later in the sentence, you forget that the original subject was backpacks. Well, your backpacks can get heavy, but your backpacks can't walk from the chorus room. So you can get rid of the gerund and say, after we walked from the chorus room, that would work. Or if you want to leave the gerund, you're going to have to say something like, we felt our backpacks get really heavy after walking from the chorus room up here to the second floor. So all possible solutions. So this is the first of three parts I want to take on. So now what I'm going to find is there's another solution. Another solution is actually to give your gerund its own subject, to leave the subject of the sentence alone and to give your gerund its own subject. So we're going to flip to the back page of this worksheet and we're going to work through two diagrams to show you how to give your own gerund its own subject. All right, so I'm going to pause my video